Is the Fed even trying to manage the economy, or have failing banks and federal spending taken over with inflation and even jobs as an afterthought? Recently, CNBC reported that hundreds of regional banks could be at risk of failure. It's based on a study by Claros Group, which analyzed 4,000 U.S. banks and found that 282 risk, quote, failure from the dual threat of commercial real estate loans and losses from higher interest rates. It's worth noting those losses from higher interest rates, meaning that hikes erode the value of bonds, those took down a series of large banks last year, starting with Silicon Valley Bank. Now, this shouldn't really be surprising. I've mentioned recently that the Fed's so-called lender of last resort function, which is a standing guarantee to bail out any bank that gambles itself into insolvency, causes banks to become more risky. And there's quite a lot of them in distress. The very nature of fractional reserve banking, which lender of last resort enables, is that banks do not have the money in their vault. They have a fraction of it, nowadays close to 0%. Instead, your dollars are lent out, perhaps to hedge funds in Dubai for years at a time, so there is nothing in the vault, yet the bank pretends you can come withdraw at any time. That means when people actually do come and withdraw, either because they doubt the bank's solvency or because the economy is doing badly, they find out there's nothing there, at which point the Fed jumps in, like they did last year. Of course, if your grandmother knew her bank is actually a leveraged hedge fund, she would probably have trouble sleeping at night, which is why they lie. The problem is that lie is taking over. Now, when the Fed was founded in 1913, it solemnly promised that it had one purpose: to protect the dollar. Of course, it lied, pumping an inflationary everything bubble in the 20s that ended in the Great Depression. Rather than learn its lesson, the Fed doubled down, implementing the so-called dual mandate, giving equal effort to protecting the dollar, so inflation, and to artificially boosting the economy, what proponents call full employment. Author Jim Grant brilliantly summed this as the Fed has two mandates: arsonist and fireman. So the arsonist starts the fire with artificially low interest rates that spark a bubble economy. Then when the tissue fire inflation gets out of hand, when voters start to get angry, the Fed hides the gasoline can and dons its fireman hat to hike rates, which of course sends us into recession. As bad as that inflation recession cycle has been for America, a recession roughly every 5 years since 1913, it was positively transformed by the 2008 crisis into, effectively, a third mandate: financial solvency. So forget inflation, forget the jobs, save the bankers at all costs. So what's next? Brought to you by Unchained.com. Since COVID, that third mandate is taking over. That means a Fed that doesn't make decisions based on inflation or even jobs, it makes them based on propping up fundamentally insolvent banks and facilitating trillion-dollar deficits, without which the welfare warfare state would grind to a halt. Like an addict who has lost control, the Fed's lender of last resort, these standing bailouts, goes from a siphon draining the people's wealth every year to literally taking over. It's a heroin addiction fed by easy money, in which case the path forward becomes very simple. We lurch from crisis to crisis, each one neutralized with an inflation bazooka of new dollars, one after the next. In short, once finance takes over, it is inflation forever. Okay, we'll be watching. See you next time.